Okay, this is a video on the, I think it's called a Dollhouse Mini Claw Machine. They sell these on vevor and Temu and Amazon. And they'll have different names up here for what they call them. So, this one here, I picked up new damage. Somebody looked like they had dropped it. So, it has a little bit of damage over here, which is completely meaningless, and the top's broken, which I didn't care because I don't like this top. So first things first, what we did was I went to the Habitat for Humanity store and I got a used upper cabinet. The cabinet is 12 deep by 15 wide, approximately. Might be 13 by 15, something like that. The machine itself is 12 by 12, not including this. So also when you look up where they give you dimensions of this, they're including this in the dimensions. So it's the machine itself is 12 by 12. So we got a cabinet. We wrapped it in some cheap vinyl from Dollar Tree. We actually put extra clear on top here, so if we move this around, it doesn't shred the vinyl. And then it's just got shelves inside with stuff. And I've got a little hook on here for the key. The little Pac-Man Ghost came from Hobby Lobby. I think I grabbed it on clearance at some point. So on the side here, I have a bin. I've made stickers on the Cricket machine, Coil Games on Free Play, and then place the empty prize balls in here. So this is, I think it said it was some type of a book holder from Dollar Tree, and it came in a bunch of different colors. There's like 3 or 4 colors. So what I did was I cut the lip off the side here to make it flush, because it's actually supposed to lock into the next one. So I'm going to put some double-sided tape here probably, and that'll be sufficient for that. I didn't like the pink, but my wife does, so whatever makes her happy, so I can keep buying arcade stuff. Alright, so a couple things with this machine. This is a real coin mech, because this is a real commercial machine. It's just a small machine. So when you open this, this takes whatever coin you put in there is what it'll take. Come hold this. And what I mean by that is, there you go. This here slides and the coin comes out. So if you wanted to take this size token, these are just Chuck E. Cheese tokens, then you slide this and you put the token up in there, and it's just like that, and it will accept that size token. If you wanted to use smaller tokens like penny size, you put a penny in there, and you can put pennies in here, quarters, whatever. So whatever you put in here is what the mechanism will allow to pass through. Otherwise it kind of gets jammed. The other thing that you'll want to know is there's counters and stuff in there, but you've got a master power kill there. I just leave that on all the time. And that red button, when the machine's turned on, you push and hold that, and what it does is it'll go into a like an owner's menu here. It allows you to make a bunch of changes to the machine, because claw machines are rigged. Plain and simple. They're always rigged, but you can set it so it's not rigged, or you can set it so it is rigged. You can set it so somebody only wins every 20 times. You can set it to free play. People can still put coins in. It'll say the coins got put in, but it makes no difference because it's on free play. It doesn't affect it one way or the other. It won't lock it up or anything. And another thing that you set is you set the what's called there's voltages. So those voltages, what they are, is you're setting how strong the claw can grip and how strong it can hold once it has something. So that's why when you play a claw game, you might grab something and it starts to pick it up and then it just drops it and it keeps going and the claw slams shut after it drops it. That's because it's set to low voltage and you're not on a win cycle. So I have this set to win every time. I have the voltages, both voltages set as high as they will go. That way it will grab and hold something every time. When it comes to the top, it comes up and it hits here. It won't drop the item. When the carriage goes all the way over and it hits, because it does stuff roughly on purpose, is to try and shake the item out of the claw. So if you set those as high as they will go, then it'll win every time. There's also, down in here, there's a sensor that, depending on the size of the items that you have in the machine, when things fall through here, it'll cheer. There's an on-off for that. You can turn the music up, you can turn the music down, you can turn the music off. I wish I could change the music because it's very annoying, but it's just generic annoying attraction music. You know, these light up, stuff like that. Now, on this particular one that I have, this does light up, and the inside lights up. So on the inside here, it just has a LED panel that's screwed to the top with just regular self-drilling generic screws. Nothing special. The wiring runs up into the corner here, and it runs down this channel and down into the base of the machine. I haven't taken it apart because I have no reason to see if there's a plug down there, or if it's hardwired, or it could be wired into a plug behind that channel, but I haven't removed that channel. Now, when I said I bought this damaged, it also, when the guy powered it on, it threw a code. And it threw a code because I didn't notice it until I got home, but when they dropped the machine, it hit so hard that it dislodged this whole carriage assembly from the side bar here. So all I had to do was push it up and force it back on, because you got rollers on the top and you've got on the bottom to stop it from coming off the rod. You know, they make it so it's not just going to fall off. So I forced it back on there. I have had a party since, all kinds of kids playing it, no breakdowns. It works perfect every time. It's great. So look out for things like that, because the actual fault was for this stop sensor. This is your front stop sensor. So when it comes forward, that hits this piece of plastic, and you hear that clicking. This is basically the same as what's in the better joysticks. When you move some of the better joysticks, they make that clicking noise. It's basically the same sensor inside here. And it tells it, you know, it stops the motor once it comes up to here, and tells it, you know, to stop so it can drop the item in the correct spot. Alright, so the thing that I posted a picture of a project I'm doing with this, and the thing that people wanted to see is how to get this crap apart. So this here is screwed on with 5 screws. Let me turn off that light, it's still bright. It's screwed on here with 5 screws. The back screws you can get to from the inside, the front ones you cannot. So there's no point fighting trying to get the back screws out, because you cannot get the front ones out. So this is already unscrewed, and this is what it looks like underneath of it. You've just got cheap RGB LEDs. That's all that's underneath of it. So this here, the part of this is broke off already. So there were threaded inserts screwed into these holes. And then there was another strip here across the front that had 2 more of them. So to unscrew the house I guess you would call it, from the top of the machine, you have to remove the top of the machine. It's not as difficult as you would think. So what you have to do is come over here, and these red and black wires, you'll see one's unplugged. That's for the up on top. These wires are going to be zip tied together. You need to cut the two zip ties without cutting the wires. And then you'll see on here, I don't know if you can see it, this is a very small area to try and film in. There's a little thing that you push. You push on that, and there's a little hook that moves, and when you push that and the hook lifts up, you pull it off of the other wire, the other part of the plug here, and now you're disconnected. The wiring is disconnected. That's on top of this ceiling. Now, because I don't know where the plug is for this LED panel, it's easy enough to just remove the two Phillips head screws and let it hang. It's not going to hurt anything. After that, you need to get a 7mm socket, a short extension, and a 1/4" drive ratchet. Now you're going to take all these nuts loose all the way around. There's 3 on each side. Doesn't want to focus because there's too much here to focus on. So there's 3 down each side. There's 3 across the back. And there's none in the front. Alright, to get to them, you're going to have to move this carriage. It will slide. Just, push it. It's just some resistance. It's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt anything, as long as you don't get crazy with it. Okay, so you're going to loosen all 9 of those nuts. You don't have to take them fully off. You're just going to loosen them all the way. I think I have the nuts where the face of the nut is flush with the end of the stud. Okay. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do, if it's just you, close the door and lock it. Because when you lift this off, if the door is not shut and locked, or somebody's not holding the door is going to fall. There's a pin at the bottom of the door that goes into the body of the machine. There's a pin at the top of the door that goes into the lid of the machine that you're going to be removing. So, take this. You simply lift the top off the machine. Make sure that this doesn't get snagged on anything, because it's got these stupid little hooks. I don't even know why. They serve no purpose. Okay? And you can see there's the hole for the upper hinge pin, and there's your upper hinge. As long as this is locked, it should stay. It should not move. Okay? Now, we'll come over here. So, here's your lid. And when you take it off, you're going to take this whole thing off like this. This whole assembly is going to come off like this. You're going to flip it over. You're going to take a Phillips head screwdriver, and you're going to remove this screw, which you can't get to those with this on. And then there's going to be 3 across the back that you're going to remove. They are Phillips head machine screws. Not a big deal. And now this, basically, this is already damaged and busted, so more or less this is trash, as far as I'm concerned. Not a big deal. This is what I made. So this is the new box that's going to go on there. I can post a link in the description for Amazon to buy the acrylic that I bought. This is milky white acrylic. It's 1/8 inch. It came in 12 by 12 sheets. This is one of the sheets cut down. It's a 4-pack. The reason you buy the 4-pack is you're going to cut down 2 of the 12 by 12s, and that way you'll have 2 that are like 5 7/8 tall by 12 inches long. So that gives you your 4 sides. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take 2 of those sides, and you're going to cut about 1/4 inch off of the end of each one of those. So what you'll end up with is 2 pieces that are 12 inches long for the front and the back, and 2 pieces that are 11 3/4 long. which is going to be your sides. The reason the sides need to be shorter is because you're gluing them up against the inside of the ends. And by the time you add the thickness of the two ends, this gives you 12 inches. So this is a full length 12 inch. This is an 11 3/4 plus an 1/8 inch plus an 1/8 inch. That gives you 12 inches. That way it's the perfect size for the top of the machine. The next thing is take one of these pieces you have left, and this is after you've glued the sides together. I glued all the sides together. I used this glue. It's some crazy glue I found on insane glue I found on Temu. It is fully welded and hardened on this acrylic in like 30 seconds. I've used it on 3D printing on the PLA stuff. It works well on that too. I don't know what exactly this is, but this is not like any super glue, crazy glue, whatever that I've ever bought in a store in the US. So it's just insane. It works fantastic. And it's super thin, so you have to be careful because it will run. It is very thin. So what I did was I glued the sides onto the face. I just put a little bit of glue on the face, on the front panel, set the side on it straight up and down, and I aligned it with my fingers to where it felt like it was flush, and I held it there long enough it just hardened. And I did the same thing with the other side, and then I did the back panel, which is the other full 12-inch panel. So after that's done, you're gonna take your one of your 12x12s you have left, and you want to cut 2 full-length 1-inch wide strips. Once you cut the 2 1-inch wide strips, you want to cut them down to 11 3/4. That will provide you with these pieces that you need to put in here. What I did after that was I took this box, which had no lid yet. It didn't have a lid. And I figured out what I wanted the front panel to be. And I set it on here, and I didn't have a top on here. So I was able to put those strips in and push them down flat. And then I flipped the whole thing over upside down. And I took a Sharpie and I just made a dot everywhere that the bolt needed to be, right in the center of the holes that are there. Easy enough. Take this back off. Pop these back off because they're not glued, they're just stuck in there, and they're good and tight. And then I used a 7/32 drill bit, and I drilled where those marks were. Then I took, I believe this is a 4mm Allen, and I used it to remove these threaded inserts from the old top that used to be on there. They unscrew pretty easy. They're a little hard screwing into the new plastic, so you gotta get them started and then like back it off a little bit and then go forward and back it off a little bit, and then you can screw them in all the way. So you're reusing those, that way you can reuse the machine screws. So this, I believe, said 4mm on it, and again 7/32 drill bit. You can try and go up to the next size, but I would drill into a scrap piece first to make sure that this next size is not too big. It might make it easier to put the threaded inserts in, but when I took the inserts out of the old pieces, the 7/32 drill bit is the one that fit through here. So, alright, now that you have your strips made, you've got your metal inserts installed, you also want to take a Sharpie and you want to put an arrow on there, because you want to, these are not centered on these plastic strips. So you want to put an arrow facing outward. That way you know which way to glue these in when you put them back in. You can see the arrow from here, there's an arrow there, the other arrow's on the inside. So the next thing, when I put these strips back in, the box was flipped the other way. Again, it did not have the top on yet. I took one of these stirring sticks you get free in the paint department at like Lowe's or Home Depot, and snap part of the end off, because otherwise it's too long. It won't do what you need. It's a little bit too long. So these, I don't know if you can tell, these are not flush. They're not flush for two reasons. One, these threaded inserts don't screw in flush. The other reason is I have to have room. This wire drops through here, and you don't want to screw this down tight on this wire and pinch it. So to do that, the box was flipped the right side up. I put these in, put one in where it needed to be. I set this under it as a spacer, and I pushed the piece of plastic down onto this. Then I simply took this and I went around the perimeter on the inside of the box. It's easy enough. And leave it for a couple minutes, come back, make sure you're not glued to this. So, you know, once you have it spaced out and everything, you've got it all pushed up on there, it'll stop, you know, all the little gaps will go away pretty quick with the, at least with this adhesive. And then you just want to pull this back a little bit, so make sure you're not gluing the wood spacer to it. And then same thing in the back. Okay, easy enough, no big deal. Once all that's done, let it dry for, I don't know, I think I left it dry for like a half hour, just to make absolutely sure. And you don't want to do it upside down like this. I'm just showing you because there's a top in here now, and there was no top when I did this. You want to do it this way, so these are on the bottom, because you're running all that glue in along the edge, and you don't want the glue just running down the inside of the plastic. Okay. Now, the final thing I did was, this is just a 12 by 12 piece, so this is your fourth piece of plexi or acrylic. And it fits almost perfect all the way around. The box may be twisted a little bit at the top. The bottom is going to be square because you've got those pieces jammed and glued in at all four corners. So the last thing I did was strip the paper off of it, set it on a mat, and I went around and just put a line of glue all the way around on the 12 by 12 panel. Then I took the lid and I set the lid right down into the panel. That way there's nowhere for the glue to run down the face of this, and you can also, you know, you can get it all squared up on the corners. This glue sets up crazy fast, so you don't have a lot of time to mess around with trying to get things straight, square, whatever. So there's a little tiny bit of overhang on the front and the back. I don't know, maybe these pieces are bowed a little bit, just the way I assembled everything. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. It still looks perfectly fine. It's still going to function. So the next thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take this, once everything is good and dry and solid, and you're going to set this on here, and you're going to put the screws back in. And I'm backwards. Let's go this way. So it's going to go like that. You can put the screws back in. Go ahead and pause it. You paused it, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so here's your new box, your new top. Phillips head screws. When you put these in, get them all started before you run anything in. Do not crank down on them. You only need them to just barely be snug. So once they stop screwing in, a little tiny bit more, that's it. If you get crazy, you're going to break something. Okay? You're only holding a plastic box on top here that weighs absolutely nothing. It's not going to go anywhere. So what I'm going to attempt to do, which I don't think is going to work. So I would like to be able to plug that in first, but I don't think that's going to happen. So what we got to do here is basically you're just lining everything back up so it goes we're hitting the poster on the wall. There we go. And now it's back on. You just want to make sure that when you're putting it on, you're not crushing this wire in the back. You're not going to be able to see, especially not with the without the flash on. So there we go. Now I can see. I'm going to reach in here and fiddle with this damn plug. Okay, so we've got that plug back in. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn it on just so you can see how it works before I bother tightening everything back up. So this machine is turned on all the time on the power switches. I actually just use a Christmas tree foot switch, and that is how I turn it on and off. So there you go. There's your light box. It's exactly the same as having the stupid little house up on there. You can barely see where I glued in the front bar that goes on there. And if you're really that concerned about it, then like I have this holographic tape on here. You could always get some of that, cut it a little bit wider, and it would cover that. You wouldn't even see it. I may in fact actually do that along the top here just to give it a little more dimension. And then we're going to cut something for the front here, just for a name for the claw machine. So at this point, all I have left to do is I have to screw that light panel back up and tighten all the studs all the way around to hold the top on there. Other than that, this job is done. The modification is done. It was easy enough. Now when you're cutting the acrylic, you want to make sure you're using a skinny blade on the table saw. We used like a mini table saw to do it with a skinny carbide blade, because what will happen, and it's not that noticeable, but what will happen is you can get chips along the edge here. I don't know if, there we go. So what I did was all the cut edges that I did, because every one of these side pieces is going to have an edge that you have run through the saw. I put them all at the top, because in the end what I can do is, again, I can cover that seam with some of this holographic tape. Because in the holographic tape, or you could use some cheap black vinyl, whichever. This is just Dollar Tree stuff. It's cheap. So if you mess up, it's no big deal. It's like $1 for a 2-foot roll, 12-inch by 2-foot roll of the stuff. So I don't think there's anything else. I think that's pretty much the extent of everything here. But yeah, so you know, you move that around and you hit the button. It's obviously empty right now, but you can see it does not go down all the way. So it does not. It probably goes within a 1/2 inch or 1 inch of the bottom. Now, this machine actually came with this piece of styrofoam. That's all it is, styrofoam. It's got this fuzzy padding on it. So this was down in there first, and then you just put stuff on top of it. I'm either going to reuse that carpeting and do something thinner, or I may go around and seal the bottom all the way around. Maybe put some fish stones in there, like some fluorescent ones, something like that. Because then I also had it filled with 200 of these plastic coins on the bottom and some fake jewels and stuff. So I may just put treasure chest on this machine. But hopefully you guys found this useful, some of the information at least. I know it wasn't a step-by-step how to build the box and everything, but I hope I gave a good enough explanation as to what you need to do to build that box if you wanted to build one. It takes a couple hours to build if you are at all good with your hands, I guess. So, alright, thank you, and like and subscribe.